Welcome to Pet Ortho Brace's video on how to cast your dog for a custom brace.
Hi, this is Dave. Your casting kit should include 2 rolls of casting tape, a cut strip, a cut knife, gloves, stockinette, tape measure, scissors, and an order form. You'll need a small bucket of room temperature water and a large towel for your dog to lie on during the casting process. Please watch the video in full before beginning the process. Here we're casting Cooper, or Golden Doodle, for a front carpal brace. Since Cooper has somewhat longer fur, I like to use the press and seal saran style wrap in order to compress that fur and get a better cast. You can use the press and seal or any type of saran wrap that meets your needs. If you have a very short-haired dog, it's not absolutely necessary to use any type of plastic wrap or material for the first interface. You can just use the stockinette and pull that directly over the pet's limb. Because Cooper has a little bit longer fur, again, I'm going to use the saran wrap and I'm going to compress this fur down and wrap all the way from the paw, proximal, past the carpal joint, and past the elbow joint. As you'll see here, I'm going to cross that elbow joint and go a little bit higher than I really need to, just to make sure that we don't get any material on Mr. Cooper and pull his hair and make him uncomfortable when we're removing the cast. So again, I'm pointing out the elbow where I like to go just above it. Make sure everything is nice and smooth and compressed. Now we're ready to apply the stockinette. The stockinette is nothing more than a piece of material, an interface that goes between the casting material and the dog's limb in order for it to not stick and be easily removed. As you'll see in a little bit, you can also draw on this stockinette any bony prominences or areas of concern that may cause rubbing or skin irritation. I like to mark the olecranon and the elbow. Make sure that's prominently marked so that it transfers in the casting procedure. I'll come down and I'll articulate right at the carpal joint, and I'll make a mark right through the center of the articulation point of the carpal joint. This is very important that we're accurate here, so please take your time and make sure that the anatomy is correct. If the dog has a dew claw intact, I do like to mark that as well, and also the posterior pad if it's also prominent. Okay, as we start the casting process, make sure you apply the gloves that were provided in your casting kit. You could also use any type of latex or vinyl gloves that you have with you. Here I'm practicing the casting technique before I apply the casting material. It's very important that we take our hand and push up on the paw, as I have demonstrated, in a simulated weight-bearing position. Now we're going to apply the cut strip down the front or anterior portion of the leg. We don't want to apply the cut strip in the back because that will be where the fabrication takes place and the brace has the best fitting. So here I'm dipping the casting tape into the water 3 or 4 times and wring it out. Make sure you wrap your cutting strip inside with the cast tape. I'm going to overlap approximately 50% with each turn of the cast tape. I'm going right on top of the cutting strip, and we're going to wrap all the way down to the paw and the distal portion of the limb. Feel free to just take your time here. You have about 2 or 3 minutes to work with this material until it hardens. Here we're getting down to the end of the paw, and I'll come back up wrapping over again, maybe 50%. And then we're going to cut the excess off. It's not necessary to use the entire roll of cast tape during this procedure. And actually, it can be difficult to cut if you use too much casting material. Smooth the material in, making sure you get around all the bony prominences. Smooth in around the elbow, the accessory pads, the dew claw, and the carpal joint. Here, I'm showing you again to make sure you press the paw in an upward position, but while maintaining the proper angle of the carpal joint. My right hand is maintaining the carpal joint at around 15 degrees, but my left hand is pushing up as much as the pet will allow me to push in order to simulate that weight-bearing position. Again, however you leave this cast and let it dry is the way that the brace will be made. So make sure to take your time here and position it exactly how you want the brace to be fitted to your pet. Make sure there's not too much flexion or extension in the carpal joint. And also make sure that you're pushing up and allowing that paw to be compressed as if the dog were standing in a weight-bearing position. During this time now, if you've got the correct position, we're just going to smooth it in and wait approximately 1 to 2 minutes. You'll feel the material get a little bit warm and start to harden, and that's when you know it's ready to be removed. During this time, again, feel free to keep smoothing in the material and make sure you get a really nice cast of the limb. It looks like approximately 2 minutes have passed. The cast is hardened and it's ready to be removed. What I'm demonstrating here is that nice push on the paw and how we got close to a 90-degree angle as if the dog were standing. I'm taking my marker. I'm going to write a big L on the cast for left. And then I'm going to follow down the cut strip with my marker to help guide me when I remove the cast with the cutting knife. The cutting knife is a safety blade. You'll take the edge of it, start at the top, grab that first proximal or edge towards the top, get it underneath the cast, and you're going to pull fairly forcefully down, maintaining the blade right on top of that cutting tube. The whole purpose of that cut tube is so you don't injure your pet while removing the cast. Now, sometimes this can be a little difficult if the blade's not inserted properly or if your material is too thick. So again, you don't have to use all the material when you're casting with the initial cast tape. So here I'm going to get right on the top. Here we go. It slides down pretty freely. And getting around that very bottom and where it turns on top of the paw sometimes can be difficult. I can promise you we're not hurting Cooper here. He's just a little bit uncomfortable while we're trying to remove the cast, but we're on top of the cut strip the entire time. If you have an extremely difficult time getting the cast off around the very distal portion, you can use a cast saw if you're a veterinary technician or a veterinarian in your clinic. And if you're very careful, you can use a straight edge blade like a box knife, cut around the bottom and staying right on top of that tube to make sure you don't injure your pet. Normally it's not necessary with the cut knife provided. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of difficulty myself getting around that bottom part, but here we were able to remove it. We're going to pull the cut tube out and then take our scissors and start cutting the distal end, or the down by the paw, and the stocking in order to remove the cast. Now that we've gone all the way through, your cut strip should pull out freely. Take your safety scissors, start at the bottom, and as you cut up towards the elbow, make sure you pull your scissors towards the ceiling. This will stretch the stockinette and make sure you don't cut your pet or cut any fur. And there you go. We have the cast removed. We're checking to make sure we have the proper position and the proper angle that you want to have the custom brace made to. If for some reason you've completed this process and the cast is not in the position that you were trying to achieve, feel free to start over. There is a second roll of cast tape provided just for that reason. It's very important that the cast is correct so that you can have the best quality brace possible. Here I'm just removing the plastic wrap that I applied earlier, and Mr. Cooper is quite happy to be out of that cast. At this point, take time to go ahead and fill out the paperwork and call me at this number with any questions or concerns.